3:17 hours, Tehran. March 9, 2026. The capital smells of diesel smoke and scorched concrete. Emergency generators hum beneath the clerical quarter. Then Iranian state television cuts to an unscheduled broadcast, and the world pivots on its axis. Across the region, signals intelligence platforms registered the anomaly within 90 seconds. At the National Security Operations Center in Washington, D.C., watch officers elevated their alert posture. The event was not a missile. It was not a drone swarm. It was a declaration, transmitted on all frequencies, received in every capital simultaneously. The Islamic Republic of Iran had named a new supreme leader. Mojtaba Khamenei, 56 years old, son of the slain Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, stepped into the most consequential power vacuum in the modern Middle East. His first message to the United States of America was immediate, unambiguous, and surgical in its defiance. The stakes could not have been higher. A nation under aerial bombardment had just told the world's most powerful military, the Islamic Republic does not negotiate under fire. It multiplies. At 2:44 hours on February 28, 2026, the battlespace over Tehran was saturated. Operation Epic Fury, the coordinated U.S.-Israeli aerial campaign, had entered its ninth day. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, operating from Diego Garcia, prosecuted deep penetration strike packages against hardened underground facilities. Israeli F-35I Adir platforms, flying suppression of enemy air defense profiles, dismantled the last operational S-300 battery northeast of Qom. The strategic architecture of Iranian military power was being systematically disaggregated, one hardened facility, one command node, one weapons depot at a time. Then, at 2:51 hours, a GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, 30,000 pounds of kinetic precision, impacted a residential compound adjacent to the Beit, the Supreme Leader's administrative complex, in northern Tehran. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed. His wife, his daughter, his sister, his son-in-law, and 2 grandchildren died alongside him. The strike erased the apex of 4 decades of revolutionary authority in under 11 seconds. At 6:15 hours, signals from Iranian communications networks changed character. Traffic volume spiked. Encryption protocols shifted. The IRGC's internal command and control architecture, monitored in real time by NSA SIGINT assets and airborne RC-135 rivet joint platforms orbiting at 30,000 feet over the Gulf of Oman, transmitted indicators consistent with emergency succession protocols being activated. At 14:30 hours, the 88-member Assembly of Experts convened, not in Tehran, not in Qom, remotely. Delegates participated by secure video link, dispersed across hardened locations throughout the country. Their physical consolidation would have presented a high-value targeting opportunity. The IRGC had assessed that risk. It had acted accordingly. At 17:09 hours, IRGC senior commanders transmitted direct pressure to Assembly delegates. Intelligence assessments obtained by Western agencies indicated that the Revolutionary Guards were not requesting a vote. They were managing one. The preferred candidate was not a senior Ayatollah, not an established political figure. The preferred candidate was Mojtaba Khamenei, a man who had never held elected office, whose clerical rank of Hojatolslam technically fell below the theological threshold for supreme leadership, and whose entire career had been conducted in the shadows of his father's institutional machinery. At 21:47 hours, the vote was finalized. Iranian state television went to emergency broadcast posture. Anchors in beige green appeared on screen. The statement was read aloud. Ayatollah Sayyid Mojtaba Hosseini Khamenei. The clerical promotion had been applied retroactively, instantaneously, by decree, had been selected as the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Strong votes. National unity. The nation was urged to consolidate. At 22:03 hours, Mojtaba Khamenei issued his first recorded statement. It was 16 words. Translated from Farsi, the message reads, "This nation will never surrender to pressure. Only the intelligent know that threats cannot move the Iranian people." 16 words. Transmitted to every intelligence service on the planet within 4 minutes. The new battle space had been defined, not by ordinance, but by declaration. The international reaction was instantaneous, simultaneous, detonative. In Washington, President Trump's response arrived at 22:31 hours, posted to his social media platform in capital letters. The selection of Mojtaba Khamenei was unacceptable. Trump warned that the new leader would not last long without American approval. The statement was not diplomatic language. It was a targeting indicator dressed as political commentary. In Tel Aviv, the Israel Defense Forces Strategic Communications Directorate issued a statement at 22:38 hours. Israel would pursue every successor to the elder Khamenei. 7 words. Unambiguous. The IDF had already demonstrated the operational capability to match that language. The statement was not a threat. It was a documented pattern of behavior restated as policy. In Tehran, the response to both governments arrived in physical form. At 23:14 hours, Iranian state television broadcast footage of a newly unveiled ballistic missile. Painted on its fuselage, in Arabic script, were 4 words. At your service, Sayyid Mojtaba. The IRGC had not waited for the political aftermath. It had prepositioned its loyalty statement on a weapons platform. Kinetic diplomacy, Iranian style. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, who 48 hours earlier had issued conciliatory remarks toward Gulf Arab neighbors, remarks that sounded, briefly, like the opening of an off-ramp, reversed course at 23:58 hours. Iran would escalate attacks on American targets throughout the Middle East. The conciliatory window was closed. Hardliners had spoken. The new supreme leader had not yet spoken a second time. He did not need to. The institutional machinery of the Islamic Republic was already recalibrating around him. By 4 o'clock hours on March 9th, oil futures had surged 14%. Asian equity markets had shed 3.8%. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 21% of global petroleum flows daily, was actively contested by Iranian fast attack craft and U.S. naval assets. The economic shockwave registered in Tokyo, Singapore, Frankfurt, and New York before most of those cities had consumed their morning coffee. 12 minutes after the state TV broadcast, silence reclaimed Tehran's frequencies. The first message had been sent. The damage assessment following Mojtaba Khamenei's appointment was not measured in structures destroyed or personnel casualties. It was measured in strategic options closed. Operation Epic Fury had been designed, in part, around a theory of political pressure that the destruction of Iran's nuclear infrastructure, its naval capacity, its ballistic missile arsenal, and its command architecture would produce a leadership willing to negotiate. The Venezuela solution, as senior White House officials had described it internally, a leadership transition toward figures amenable to Western terms, had been the implicit end state. That end state had been denied. The Assembly of Experts, operating under direct IRGC pressure, had installed not a technocratic moderate, but a Khamenei. The name itself functioning as a weapons system, a symbol capable of generating domestic cohesion around the concept of martyrdom. Mojtaba Khamenei's entire immediate family had been killed in the February 28th strike. His father, his mother, his sister, his wife, his daughter, a young niece. The regime did not suppress that information. It amplified it. The new supreme leader was not merely a political successor. He was a figure constructed, in the public imagination, as the embodiment of Iranian sacrifice, and therefore beyond the reach of rational deterrence calculation. The tactical lessons were immediate. Decapitation of leadership does not automatically dissolve institutional cohesion when the successor inherits both the emotional narrative of martyrdom and the physical backing of the IRGC's 125,000-strong force structure. Strategic ramifications cascaded across every allied capital simultaneously. European foreign ministers convened emergency sessions. Saudi Arabia, which had issued sharp warnings to Tehran regarding attacks on Gulf infrastructure, recalculated its exposure. Russia congratulated Mojtaba Khamenei at 9 o'clock hours Moscow time, a signal to Washington that the geopolitical architecture of Iranian resistance retained external sponsorship. This engagement fundamentally reshaped the operational calculus of Operation Epic Fury. U.S. Central Command had established 4 formal campaign objectives: deny Iran nuclear weapons capability, destroy the Iranian Navy, eliminate the ballistic missile threat, reduce the axis of resistance. 3 of those objectives are measurable: destroy, eliminate, deny. The 4th, reduce the axis of resistance, is a political objective dressed in military language. It requires not just the destruction of physical infrastructure, but the fracturing of ideological commitment. Mojtaba Khamenei's first message demonstrated that the Islamic Republic was not fracturing. It was consolidating. Analysts at the Sofan Center assessed that an informal leadership council, comprising the president, parliamentary speaker, judiciary chief, IRGC commanders, and national security chief Ali Larijani, would govern alongside the new supreme leader in the near term. Power would be distributed, not concentrated. That distribution makes the system harder to degrade through targeted strikes. It is, in effect, a decentralized command architecture, the same design principle that makes distributed military networks resilient against precision engagement. Whether Mojtaba Khamenei holds power for years or months remains a variable. Whether his first message to the United States alters the trajectory of Operation Epic Fury is not a variable at all. It already has. The calculus of unconditional surrender, a phrase Trump administration officials had used openly, collides directly with a succession designed to communicate that Iran cannot be forced to produce a leadership it did not choose. The Iranian strategic signal was not subtle. You removed one Khamenei. The next one is already standing in the smoke. 9 days into Operation Epic Fury, the Islamic Republic of Iran absorbed the death of its supreme leader, reconstituted its apex authority within 8 days, and delivered its first message to the most powerful military in the world in 16 words. That message carried no nuance, no diplomatic hedging, no off-ramp. The war continues, not because diplomacy failed, but because both sides have now made the cost of stopping higher than the cost of continuing.